You're standing in the kitchen. Your partner asks you one simple question, and somewhere between hearing it and answering it, you disappear. Not physically. Your face is still there. Your eyes are still open, but something behind them switches off, and for 3, 4, 5 seconds there is nobody home. Your partner says your name. You hear it. You just can't reach it. Your mouth opens. Nothing comes out. Not because you don't know what to say, because the part of you that usually knows has gone quiet, all at once, like someone pulled a plug on it mid-sentence. Then it passes. You blink. You say, "Sorry, what?" Like you stepped out of the room for a second. Except you never left the kitchen. Your body stood exactly where it was the whole time. Your feet never moved. So where did you go? This isn't you being difficult. This isn't you checking out, because you don't care about the question. This isn't a character flaw, and it definitely isn't weakness. It's a nervous system response. And it happened faster than any decision you were capable of making. You didn't choose it. There was no moment where you weighed your options and picked go blank. Your body made that call before the thought had time to fully form. That's the part almost nobody understands about this. By the time you notice you've shut down, you're already inside it. The noticing comes after. It always comes after. Here's a name worth remembering. Stephen Porges, the psychiatrist behind polyvagal theory, spent decades mapping how your nervous system decides, without asking your permission, whether a given moment is safe, dangerous, or life-threatening. It runs this check constantly, underneath your awareness, dozens of times a minute, and shutdown sits at the most extreme end of that map. It isn't fight. It isn't flight. It's the oldest survival strategy your body owns. Go still. Conserve everything. Disappear from the threat until it loses interest and moves on. Except the threat in your kitchen wasn't a predator. It was a question about dinner. That mismatch is the entire story. So let's look at how it actually shows up, because it almost never stays this small. The mildest version is exactly what just happened to you. A question lands. Your mind goes empty for a few seconds, and then it reboots on its own. Small. Forgettable. You blame it on being tired or distracted or having a long day. You move on. You don't think about it again. One step further, and it starts costing you something real. You're in a meeting. Your manager asks you to explain a decision, and your mind, the one that had a perfectly reasonable explanation 5 minutes ago, in the hallway, rehearsing it under your breath, goes completely blank in front of everyone. You know the answer exists somewhere. You cannot find the door to it. You hear yourself say, "Let me get back to you," and you hate how small your voice sounds saying it. Higher still. You're in an actual disagreement with someone you love, and you go quiet, not thoughtfully quiet, not choosing your words carefully, but unable to form words quiet. You know exactly what you'd normally say. You can't get to it. Your throat feels like it belongs to someone else. The other person keeps talking, and you keep standing there, and the gap between what's happening to you and what it looks like from the outside keeps getting wider. Higher again, you leave your own body entirely. People who've experienced this describe watching themselves from somewhere outside, like a camera mounted above the room. You can see yourself standing there, saying nothing, arms at your sides, and you have no access to the person doing the standing. You're a spectator to your own silence. And higher still, the numbness doesn't end when the conversation does. You walk away from the argument, and hours later you still feel like you're underwater. Flat, foggy, distant from your own life. Even though nothing in the room is currently threatening you, you go through the rest of your evening on autopilot, present in body, absent everywhere else. At the far end of all of this, it stops looking like an event and starts looking like a personality. You're so hard to read. You just shut down on me. I can never tell what you're actually feeling. Years of this, repeated enough times, in enough rooms, and people stop describing it as something that happens to you. They start describing it as who you are. It was never who you are. It's a switch, and switches have triggers. And the trigger isn't always loud. That's the part that trips people up the most. You'd expect this to happen during a screaming argument, something dramatic enough to justify your body pulling the emergency brake. But most of the time it isn't dramatic at all. It's a flat tone in someone's voice. It's a specific phrase repeated from somewhere further back in your life. It's someone crossing their arms half a second before they speak. Small, almost invisible from the outside, and your nervous system reacts to it as if it were the loudest thing in the room. This is where the framework matters. Every shutdown pattern has 3 parts. There's a place where it was first written into your body, usually somewhere far earlier than the moment you'd expect, long before this particular partner or this particular job. There's a specific condition that flips the switch on, right now, in real time, in a kitchen or meeting room that has nothing to do with where the pattern started. And there's the place where the whole sequence can be interrupted before it finishes running. This video is about the middle part, the trigger. A trigger is not the whole situation. It's one specific ingredient hidden inside it, a tone of voice, a particular facial expression, the exact sensation of feeling cornered, the precise pitch of someone's frustration a half second before they actually raise it. Your nervous system isn't scanning the conversation for meaning. It doesn't care what the question was actually about. It's scanning for a cue it's felt before, and it finds that cue faster than your conscious mind can even finish registering the question being asked. That's why the shutdown always seems to come out of nowhere. It isn't out of nowhere. It's a response to a signal you weren't consciously tracking, matched instantly against a pattern your body had been filing away for years, maybe decades, without ever once telling you it was keeping the file. 2 people can sit through the same tense conversation. One of them feels uncomfortable and stays present. The other one goes blank by the second sentence. Same room, same words, completely different internal event. The difference isn't willpower, and it isn't how much either person cares about the outcome. The difference is which specific cue, buried inside that conversation, happened to match something already sitting in each of their nervous systems. Peter Levine, who spent his career studying this exact freeze response in trauma survivors, describes it as an incomplete survival response. Energy that mobilized to protect you, found nowhere to go, and locked in place instead of releasing the way it was designed to. Bessel van der Kolk documented the same phenomenon from a different angle. Your body keeps its own record of threat, one that has almost nothing to do with what your conscious mind remembers, believes, or would tell you if you sat down and asked it directly. And Pat Ogden, who built an entire clinical approach around the body's role in exactly this kind of response, made a similar point from her own corner of the research. The shutdown isn't happening in your thoughts first. It's happening in your body, and your thoughts are the last ones in the building to find out. Here's what none of them frame as a failure, and what almost nobody tells you. Your body isn't malfunctioning when this happens. It's succeeding. It's doing exactly the job it was built to do, at exactly the speed it was designed to do it, using a system that kept your ancestors alive for a very long time. The problem was never the mechanism. The problem is the mechanism no longer matches the room you're standing in. So, what do you actually do the moment you feel it starting? Not manage your triggers better. Not communicate your needs more clearly. Those are the kind of vague, feel-good instructions that sound helpful in a video and change absolutely nothing about what's happening in your body in real time while it's happening. Here's a specific action, and it's testable the very next time this happens to you. The instant you notice your voice flattening or your thoughts going quiet or that first half second of disappearing, name 3 things you can physically see out loud in full sentences, not in your head. Out loud. I see the blue mug on the counter. I see the window above the sink. I see my partner's hands. 3 objects. Full sentences. Spoken, not thought. This works for a specific reason. Shutdown pulls you out of your senses and into a kind of internal freeze, disconnected from the actual room you're standing in. Naming what's physically in front of you, out loud, forces your nervous system to process the present moment instead of the remembered threat it's quietly responding to underneath the surface. It's a version of what Levine calls orienting, using your senses deliberately to prove to your own body that this specific moment is not the moment it thinks it is. It won't feel dramatic when you do it. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to be small enough that you can actually manage it while your voice still isn't fully working, while your mind is still half a step behind the room. Try it the next time you feel that first half second of disappearing. Not after the fact. Once you've already blinked back in and apologize for going quiet. During, while it's still happening. That's the only window where it actually works. If your voice won't cooperate enough to speak out loud, the same thing works silently for a few seconds first. Press your feet flat into the floor and actually notice the pressure. Then move your eyes slowly around the room and land on 3 distinct objects before you try to speak again. The order matters. Body first. Senses second. Words last. Trying to force the words out before your body as we register the room is exactly why the usual advice to just say something fails so often. That covers what pulls the trigger. It doesn't cover what happens next, the part where your body decides it's finally safe enough to come back, and why that decision takes so much longer for some people than others, even in the exact same situation, facing the exact same question. That return, and what actually controls its timing, is a different question, one this channel hasn't answered yet. You're standing in the kitchen again. Your partner asks you the same question, and this time, right as you feel your voice start to flatten, you catch it. 3 things you can see, said out loud, and instead of disappearing, you stay.